Welcome everyone to the My Health podcast. Haven't done a podcast for a little while on this particular channel, and the amazing guests I have on today, we used to do shows a couple of years ago and under this banner, the My Health podcast. And I'm just so pleased to have them back and to revisit some of the content that we were talking about 2 or 3 years ago, all the way back to December 2020, the Magic Box activation at Uluru. On that grand time, the grand conjunction, the planetary alignments, the feverish kind of energy that was going on in the world at that time with everyone under imposed lockdown, there was such a powerful awakening that was happening across this beautiful planet of ours, because the dark side, let's call it that in inverted commas, had really pulled in a certain direction and had bared their teeth, so to speak, showed us their muscle and said that you will be under all sorts of restraints, told when to go out of your home. You can exercise for an hour a day. Martial law came in, different parts of the world. I think we all know what happened in 2020. But on the other side, of course, if you understand how polarity works, that this love or light energy will come in to counterbalance what that darkness, I suppose, was attempting at least to in a way, imprison us. That's what I would say. There was a sense of being imprisoned. And many of us were at Uluru in 2020 and part of the Magic Box activation. Now, for me as a psychic, long-time psychic, I kept hearing a mantra all year in 2020 that Australia will lead, Australia will lead, Australia will lead. And it took me a while to actually decode what that meant. Was that Australia will lead in some of these more nefarious timelines, this lockdown, this martial law that was coming in? We saw what was happening to Victoria. There was literally trucks going around the streets, military trucks going around the streets, forcing people inside, innocent people getting thrown in jail just for singing out on their social media pages to say, hey, I think there's some problems here. The list, as I say, could go on of that particular era and what was happening. And we're still in that era. Things have settled down somewhat. We're, of course, not under the lock and key, so to speak, but there's a real sense of heaviness, a sense of a doom, I guess, that's going around, maybe even gearing up for what's generically known as Agenda 30. And that's a timeline that if the powers that be get their way, there'll be lockdowns again, there'll be forced vaccinations, there'll be no international travel. These are the things that we're told could be coming for us under the guise that you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. And thanks for that, World Economic Forum. A lot of us don't agree with that. A lot of us are old school hippies. And whilst we might do our own media, we really do trust in the law of the land. That's the LORE, law of the land. And wanting to kind of flick off this sense of admiralty law. Now, the show today is not about admiralty law, but this is the sense that we're lost at sea. We're under admiralty law. Our souls are lost at sea. We don't really have any rights. Anything could happen to us at any time. And we're really wanting to get back to the land, back to the LORE, the law of the land, back to the original ways, the old ways, wanting to listen again to our original people and what they know. And this really ties us into what we're going to talk about today, which is Magic Box Reloaded. So I came to understand that the psychic download I was having about Australia will lead in 2020 was about this activation coming out of Uluru. I'll bring my powerful guests on soon, Stephen and Evan Strong, to talk about what the Magic Box activation meant for us in 2020, and then to marry it up with what I've been shown again psychically, that Steve had told us there was going to be 3 Magic Box activations. I was shown very strongly that the third one was interfered with. almost multidimensionally, I would say, but very much in an AI sense. There was an artificial intelligence interference that went on at that time to stop the ripple effect of that third activation. But I've also seen that there was interference going on in other dimensions. Now, I could go on for quite some time about what it means to be aware of our multidimensional self. Again, that's not the show today. I really want to focus on Steve and Evan and what they know, what they knew at the time, and what they know now. And we're going to bring through some incredible empirical evidence of supernatural activity that happened at the 2020 Magic Box activation at Uluru. Now, when I talk about interference, I'm talking about some very strange things happening, including one of the beautiful hosts that always would have Steve and Evan on their show. He passed away. There's all sorts of things that happened that was shown to me psychically, and I will always tell you there's no right or wrong. What happens needs to happen. But I certainly can see from an astral or a psychic perspective how the symbols work and how things are moved around to set timelines in certain directions, and how the light workers, let's call ourselves that just for the sake of a title today, how the light workers can come in and thwart those nefarious timelines and swing this planetary balance back to freedom for all. And that's certainly what we deserve. And so at the same time as we feel a lot of heaviness going on Earth right now, a lot of the stories of course, the child abuse, and we almost feel like we're shattering. And I would go as far as to say, let's shatter, let's let it all shatter so we can put ourselves back together in a balanced way, in a centered way. And this is the opportunity that awaits us now if we can continue to do the inner work within ourselves and continue to see how the timelines can play themselves out and do our part to move the timeline in a direction of, many of the astrologers, many of the psychics will tell you there's a golden age that's available for us. So let's see what happens over these next few years. But I'm going to bring on Stephen and Evan Strong to the show. Hello.
Hi, happy to be here today.
How are you both, Steve? Let's start with you. How have you been? I haven't spoken to you directly on a show for a couple of years, so it's always magical to have you here, my friend. The greatest storyteller, I would say, in all the land.
Well, I'm still here, so that's about all I can make a promise for at this stage. When you get to my age, waking up in the morning is about, that's a long-term plan.
And Evan, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, no, good. Just rolling with the punches as it all unfolds. It's definitely been an interesting couple of years, that's for sure. Yeah, it's holding on to the fact that it's all part of some sort of grand plan, but there's definitely some moments where you kind of go, But yeah, we've definitely been. I've collated a lot of stuff that's happened since that ceremony. So yeah, that always gives me a bit of hope, knowing that some of the signs we were told about are still unfolding. So yeah, like the Hoppy, definitely a lot of their predictions are still coming true. Yeah.
We need to know that, don't we? Because when we are, as light workers, transmuting a lot of these heavy energies, and I know from talking to you, Evan, that you and I are very similar in terms of our deep psyche. We don't mind traveling into that vast psyche of ours and seeing things from different perspectives, receiving downloads, living multidimensionally, having chats with the galactic beings. We're all about it. And in fact, it gives us hope. People might call us trippers, but it gives us hope because we know that we've got support in other dimensions. There's more mystery to this reality than maybe some people know. And I feel it's the time to get on board with that, because what have we got to lose when we're seeing such degradation go on the planet in so many different ways? I would say it's time to reach for the supernatural and the mystical and at least explore that and see if we can align ourselves with purity, with love. What can we create? What can we create? And this is the power that's within every human being, every ensouled human being. If you've got a heart, these are the kind of shows you need to be watching, because it can give you some real hope, and, as I say, some evidence. So let's dive into that. So if we go back, Steve, to the interviews we were doing leading up to the 2020 Magic Box activation, what did you know, Steve, and what were you sharing with us at that time?
What I knew for certain was virtually nothing. We'd known about the fact that there was a ceremony that was going to take place at Uluru, and we knew that there were preliminary ceremonies that had been taking place over a 9-year period. But we also knew as that final ceremony got closer, there were quite a few agencies that were working in different ways to make sure it didn't happen. In fact, during the year that led up to that, we went around the world telling people about this ceremony. Not on one occasion did we say absolutely that the ceremony would actually take place. We just weren't convinced it would.
We hoped.
Yeah, but there were a lot of different groups that were working. Sometimes people who thought they were working for the ceremony, their egos have got in the way. And for others, they just didn't want it to happen. So all the way through leading up to the, I think it was the 22nd of December, was it? 21st. Oh yeah, 21st of December 2020, we kept adding a proviso. It maybe, maybe not. So in one respect, Kerry-Ann, the fact that somewhere between 15 to 20 million people got involved in an activity that had no empirical base and no guarantees was quite an interesting result, because it was obviously a collective leap of faith. People got involved in this. And for our point of view, when it finished, I remember at the end of this, and there were quite a few people involved in the ceremony we did in a park at the back of Uluru that nearly overlooked Uluru, except there was a toilet block in front of it, wasn't there? A big toilet block. Even when we did that ceremony, I kept thinking to myself, okay, I know it happened, but where's the proof? And that's basically what we'd like to talk about a bit today, the proof. Because people need that, because nearly every one of us has been sent to school for varying periods of time where we've been told unless there's empirical proof, it doesn't exist. So that's what we'd like to talk about, the empirical proof that does exist.
Yeah, and we would say that you guys are scientists, you're archaeohistorians. You do fit into that category of people needing X, Y, Z before they actually come on board with this narrative. So you've got a long history.
Yeah, we do need science. We need an empirical base, because when we were set on this task by elders, that's what they asked us to do. I remember when Kano gave me ceremony, he said, I want you to find whitefella evidence that substantiates and proves the blackfella story.
So we've used that kind of for everything.
For everything.
Whether it be for this ceremony or trying to save sacred sites.
We're all about scientific analysis, and we do get scientific analysis with the artifacts. But with something like this, hoppy ceremonies or hoppy prophecies and different people feeling that they sense something intuitively, it's much harder to get an empirical base, but we do have one.
I love it. And just for those who may be new to what the Magic Box is and who Kanu is as your elder, can we just give a little bit of context? How would you describe what the Magic Box activation is, who Kanu is, and how he led you to this understanding?
Right. Well, the first thing you've got to remember, ladies and gentlemen, is the word magic box is not our terminology. It's not even the terminology of some white fellas interpreting what original people said. It was what was given to different white people by the original people at Uluru, and they gave them this term of a magic box that resided within Uluru. Now, our suspicion, and there's nothing concrete on this, is there ever?
No.
Our suspicion is the magic box was a series of crystals that were placed inside the rock to facilitate a ceremony that may or may not be successful. We think that's what that referred to. We don't think that somewhere deep within Uluru there is a wooden box there, and when you open it up, a bit like Indiana Jones with the Raiders of the Lost Ark, something comes out
like the Ark of the
kills
Covenant.
all the Nazis. I don't think it's something like that as such.
Although there were people running around saying that's what's going to happen.
Oh, there were.
Yeah.
There are all sorts of people saying all sorts of things about what was going to take place, but I don't believe that's what it actually was. But it was, I believe, the reason that the elders chose the word magic deliberately, and I know some original people didn't like it, did they?
No, they didn't.
Or they did not. They chose that deliberately because this was a form of magic, and the planet is renowned for being a magical residence, and the planet is evolving into something far more magical. So I think they had to use that term because it's the only term that's relevant to what actually happened.
And Kano is your elder. So,
Yeah.
Steve, you're part Indigenous or part original, which means you are as well, Evan. You've got those bloodlines in you. And Kano, though he's a full original, and
Well, it's
taught
a
you
tricky
the
word.
way.
Let's use the word descent, because it's tricky when you start saying about someone being half and quarter caste and something like that, because it sort of sounds like, what does that mean? One leg is black and the rest is white. It's a strange terminology. Oh, that's Kano. Yeah.
Oh.
Now, yeah, Kano is, as far as we know, the most old way original person we've run into. He is a magician. He's a clever fella. He's a Kadija man. He can do all these different things that we've heard about and read about that we thought were ancient history, or if you're mainstream, just never happened. It's not true. It's just ignorance.
I remember hearing about some of those stories when I was doing anthropology, and some of it's written in Elkin's book, Aboriginal Men of High Degree.
Yeah.
I remember going, oh, yeah, it's amazing. Never did I think there were still people out there that could do those things. I was wrong. There are and there were.
There were, and Kano was basically maintaining that lifestyle and that power and that interconnection with the land that most of us have lost. And that's not a colour thing. I mean, most of us. Black, white, purple, it doesn't matter about the colour. That's not an issue. In fact, Kano has said time after time that spirit knows no colour. So he's never been about that. He's always been about Wurchin, which is black fella, white fella dreaming. Now, what he actually did was he called me down to South Australia probably nearly 15 years ago.
It's a while ago, yeah.
Yeah, a long while ago, and said that he wanted me to come down to do ceremony. And I remember when I got down, I asked him, how long will it be before I go home? When will I book a ticket to get home? And his answer was, I don't know. When we're finished.
And didn't he throw your clipboard away?
Oh, yeah.
They're quite aerodynamic when you throw them like this, like a frisbee.
Yeah, I've been there about a week writing things down, getting information, and he came up to me after a week or so and said, it's time for ceremony. And he picked up my clipboard that I carried everywhere and just threw it off in the distance and said, you won't be needing this where you're going. So that's when we started this process. He gave me ceremony, and he's since met Evan and done stuff with him and made it clear we had a role to play.
I have a nickname.
Oh, that's right. Icing Sugar.
Icing Sugar. There was a storm coming in. We're in tents, and I'm like, should we move the tents underneath, you know, like on an awning or something? And he's like, icing sugar. I'm like, what do you mean? Are you made of icing sugar? I'm like, no. Will you melt in the rain? I'm like, oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, great sense of humour. But we were lucky enough to be there when, and Graham Hancock was there too, when he disappeared in front of all of us and reappeared meters away seconds later. And
No, it wasn't seconds. It was a minute. It's an interesting one, that one, Kerry Ann. What happened was when Graham Hancock came to Australia, he contacted us and said he's going to do talks and he wants to go into country with us. I said to him, well, I'll ask the elders if that's okay, but I've got a feeling if you want to come on the country with us, you'll have to do ceremony because we have. And that was the deal. And Graham was quite open for that. So what happened was we went and saw some sites and we had to do it back to front. I was going to try and do ceremony first, but we couldn't because of the talks he was doing. So we did it at the end, and he did. And what happened was basically Kano turned up about 7 o'clock when everyone was making dinner, all done up old way, had a lap on, all the paint was on his body, and he walked into the fire pit and started singing songs and talking a little bit, talking in English, talking in the first language. And after about half an hour, we walked out of the fire pit. The first step was easy to see because we all saw it. There was about 15 of us. The second step, nobody saw him because he disappeared. Now, what's interesting is we've got a book up at the moment called Black to My Roots, which is all about Kano. And what's fascinating is we got about 5 people to write about him disappearing. And what I found interesting was that everyone had exactly the same story about him disappearing except for one thing. And I thought it was quite revealing. I read everyone's account of how long he disappeared from. And it goes from 10 seconds to 1.5 minutes. Now, people would say, oh, well, that must mean that you guys have made it up because every one of them contradicted with each other. And I've said in the book, actually, I've said the same thing. I think that's the biggest clue of the lot. That when he disappeared, wherever he went, to an extent, we went there too. But what I find interesting is the one thing we can't agree on is how long we're in that state. And it varies between 10 seconds to 1.5 minutes. Nobody had the same timing for that. So there was something really special that took place there. And that ceremony was done for Graham and Santha that left an indelible mark on all of us. And what it also did is because he kept doing this sort of stuff, this business of disappearing for whether it's 10 seconds or 1.5 minutes, the part is he did disappear.
He did it in a museum too.
Oh, he did it a few times, and he did other things as well that were just as what we would call magical. And that gets back to why did the elders call it the magic box? Because they were calling back into this planet, and this is what this is all about. They were calling back a form of magic that has disappeared on this planet for quite some time and made it nearly unique. And this is what that ceremony was about. And we were told at the start it was about the earth changing. If it was successful, the earth would change and start to heal itself. If it wasn't successful, and we're never sure about that, then the earth would heal itself in a completely different, dramatic, catastrophic way, where everything would be affected. And the worst part of this scenario is I have no issue with humans being wiped out. As a collective, we deserve it. I'm not talking about individually or some people who don't, but as a collective, like everything else, we are a collective. We deserve not to be here anymore, right? But the scenario of the birds and the wombats and the wallabies and all the other animals being wiped out when they don't deserve it, that's not right for me. And this was our opportunity, not to save us, because when this ceremony was successful, that didn't mean we were saved. It meant that all the other animals would not be killed and wiped out and destroyed by our arrogance and stupidity. They will stay here when the earth ascends. And what we were told about this ceremony was that everybody, bar humans, will have a ticket to ride. But humans have to purchase it. It's not free for us. We have to earn a ticket to ride. And that's what this is about. That's what the whole of that ceremony was about. And as we said before, we spent a year telling people, 1.5 years, probably 2 or 3 years, to be honest, telling people what would happen. And by the way, we were told by the elders, and we told people many times before, well before the pandemic, and I'm not going to say what the word is because we'll probably get cut off. We were told that was going to happen. And we were telling people in probably presentations for 4 or 5 years, weren't we? We said this would be one of the signs. And we've got to look at it like that. We were warned in advance there would be a sign like this. We were told there'll be talk of world wars, that there'll be talk of chaos, of terrorism, and the whole world would fall into a pit of fear and terror. Well,
it kind of did that, didn't it?
Yeah. It happened. It happened exactly like we were told. So you look at that and you can say, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Or you can look at it and say, oh my God, the Hopi were right. So we look at it from the second point of view. It's not that it's horrible, but the great keepers of the philosophy of prophecy to the past, the Hopi and others, it's not just the Hopis who've told us about this. You can get this from lots of different people.
So I've got if you could bring that picture up, that's a picture. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, they talk about a purifier in the sky, in the heavens. So it's the red Kachina.
The red Kachina.
So that was that? I think it was after the second solstice, and that appeared about a week later. So they said that one of the signs were these particular things in the sky. And this one popped up. I think it was in Spain.
Yeah, it was in Spain.
It was in Spain.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this one definitely, I mean, it looks like an eye, right?
Well, look, here's the trick with this. There's a couple of prophecies we use, Hopi prophecies. One is the one about the fast-flowing river.
Yeah.
Maybe at this time it might be a good. Have you got that one there? Right. You haven't got that one there, but that's a story about the party. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll add it in it when I edit this because that's very important. That one.
It is, and it's basically, even though Evan hasn't got it with you, it's a story where they said people have spoken about the time that's about to come. He said, and they've said it's now here, and they said prepare yourself, check out who your neighbours are. Clean your water. It goes through all the things you're supposed to do to get ready. And they said that you've got to jump into the fast-flowing river. And there will be many people who will not jump in. They'll hang on to the shoreline. He said, don't worry about them. Jump into the river. Don't worry about where it's going and celebrate with the people who are in the river with you. For the ones who don't join you, it's not your problem anymore. That's theirs alone. Don't be concerned about them.
Well, it even says in this other prophecies with the arrival of the twins, which is the blue and the red. And we saw the blue during the first one. I'll get a picture of that in a second. That some people vanish before our eyes like smoke. There'll be confusion amongst the elders, the children, and the sexes. Life will get perverted. There'll be little social order in these times.
So it basically goes on and describes, if you read, it's a large prophecy. It's called the Kachina brothers, the two Kachinas, about them coming. And what the Hopi told us, and this is what we started to look for, the Hopi were very specific. They said, look into the arcade, look into the skies, and you will see signs. And what we might do, if you don't mind, Kerry Ann, is we might actually talk about the signs. Because when we go to Uluru and we do a presentation there, we'll go into more detail on this. Mick and Catherine wanted us to speak first and talk about this, the signs. So why don't we do a few of those now, Evan?
Yeah.
Why don't you start with
this up. We're referring to the Cosmic Consciousness Conference yet again in Uluru, 20th to the 22nd of December this year. There's a lot of us there. Myself and my partner Chris will be speaking, as well as Steve and Evan and so many other wonderful speakers. So for anyone that's interested in going, highly recommend it, not just for the conference, but for the energy that will be activating. And we're zeroing in today on the true third, from what I've been shown, the true third magic box activation. So we're talking about activations through the ley lines. And when I said at the top of the show that I was told all year in 2020 psychically, Australia will lead, Australia will lead, Australia will lead, started to annoy me. This mantra kept going on in my mind until Steve and Evan showed me that Australia will lead. It's the activation through the ley lines from Uluru. And we know at that time there was all sorts of supernatural activity. Pele, I believe it was, in Hawaii, the volcano erupted at exactly the same time. All sorts of bright lights in the sky, all sorts of interesting, should we say the word anomalies? I don't know. It's not an anomaly when you understand that this probably should have happened. But for the mainstream people, maybe anomalies in some of the activities of animals and different things that went on. I mean, the list really went on and on and on. A UFO in the sky at the time. We've got evidence of all of that. So we'll get into it. Let's keep going.
Yeah, let's go into it. Okay. Let's start with, Evan, if you could. Mm-hmm. Could you start with a couple of pictures of the sky?
On the first?
When we did on the 20th. We'll start with that.
All right.
Okay, what actually took place, ladies and gentlemen, is we took a group of people, about 300 people, to an oval because we could not get onto Uluru. And I need to explain something to everyone here at the moment. You need to understand something. On 10 o'clock of the morning, where this was going to take place, the elders went into Uluru. Uluru was open. There were hundreds of people there, and told everyone to leave. And by the way, I'm not making this up. Kerry Ann can confirm this, and there's a lot of other people there. All this stuff we're going to talk about is confirmed. They were told to leave, and everyone was kicked out of Uluru on that day and all of the next day. Now, they gave no reason for it. We know what the reason was. We know they were doing ceremony there, and they didn't want anyone to get in the way unless they were part of it. So that's never happened before. It's never been closed like that. Sometimes it's closed when you get there. Something's going on. No, it was open from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock, and then it was closed. So then what happened was we spent our time. We knew we couldn't go to Uluru, so we decided to do something at the oval there. And I'm hoping Evan's now going to get up pictures. I know he's doing it right now, and I'm just filling it in. What then happened was I was asked to take some rocks to Uluru. We won't go into details about that, but some elders have made it clear they wanted a ceremony with the rocks to take place to supplement this, which we did. And we set it up on an oval. And once we got to that oval, I started by, I think you've got it. He's found it. Okay. That one there will be a good one to start. Okay. Put that up.
All right. So, Steve, just to get into the galactic side of it, Steve, it was said it's because our original peoples will tell us that we come from the stars, and that particularly in the Australia region that we're sort of descendants of the Pleiadians. So these crystals, the magic box crystals, are said to have been left maybe a galactic cycle ago by the Pleiadians. It's kind of like the timeline's crossing over to give us help.
Can't be confirmed, but we've got the same information. The crystals are Pleiadian, but we can't confirm or deny that because I don't have empirical proof. I'll stay with what I have rather than what we could have. Now, I'm putting up a picture now. Now, there are different pictures of this, and you look at it from different angles and you'll get different colors. But what I want people to focus on is that deep blue patch. Now, you've got to remember the Hopi said that the two brothers, the two blue Kachinas, would show themselves for the first time identically when this began. So it's 7:32. What's happened there is we've done a meditation for about 20 minutes. The sun has set. And if you look on the horizon, you'll see that washed out blue. But the sun is gone. And then in the middle of that sky, you've got this deep patch of blue. Now, that's a focal point. And I'll explain why with a couple more videos we're going to show you. Now, what that actually did was we'd all done meditation for 20 minutes. And Catherine and Mick had some other entertainment to take place after the meditation. Well, no one cared. Everyone was looking at the sky and filming it. We spoke to the security officer there. I asked her, have you seen a sunset like this before? She said, never. Never seen it like this before. Different angles, you'll see purple, you'll see yellow, you'll see all different colors wrapped into the sky. But you got this blue patch. Now, We have another picture, which we won't put up now, I don't think, because they're at the same time in a place called Alabama in Georgia.
Oh, yeah, that's in here.
Yeah. Now, this is from the sun. Now, the one in Alabama, Georgia, I'm hoping is coming up next. Evan's putting up some pictures now. Ah, there it is. At the same time in the northern hemisphere, and the hobby made it clear the two brothers would show themselves in the northern and southern hemisphere at the same time. Well, lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, that's the moon turning out a blue moon there, but the other one is the sun. So you've got the same setup in both of them. It's called the Blue Star Dances in the Plaza and removes its mask. That's how they put it. It's dancing in the plaza.
The two brothers will help create the world in birthing time. Blue Star Kachina will come to be with his nephews and return to Earth to its natural rotation, which is counterclockwise.
Right. So if the Earth is going to spin the other way, ladies and gentlemen, there's going to be some moving, shaking that's going to take place. So, okay, now what we've got.
This is the alarm clock for the new way of life, a new world that is coming. This is when the changes will begin. We'll start as fires that burn within us, and we'll burn up with desires and conflict if we do not remember the original teachings and return to the peaceful way
Yes,
of life.
this is the big one. They made it clear, if you don't remember the original old way teachings, you will not be part of this. This is the actual test we have to sit for. And a lot of us are going to fail. So there we've got the two brothers showing themselves. And Evan showed.
You saw the red one before.
You saw the red one before. That was the last part. The two brothers came first. Then a year later comes the red brother, the red eye, to confirm that we're looking in the plaza. Now, let's stay in the plaza. Can we go back now and look at that blue patch and the UFO? No, we'll do that one. Okay, bear with us. We're doing this. Now, before Evan hits this, this is a picture that was taken at 7:37. The ceremony started at 7:32. The question is, have we turned on the magic box? Now, this was taken by a different group of people. When they took this, they went home and they were taking pictures of the sky. And you can see there's different colors there to the other one. And they were taking, it goes from Katachuka to Uluru. It joined the two together. Now, Evan's going to play this a couple of times. I want you to watch. Right. Now, I want you to play it a second time again, please, Evan. Look for the flash. Now, that flash covered the whole sky. But here's the trick. These people never saw it until they went home and looked in the film and said, my God, what was that? Now, someone might say, oh, it's a flash from behind. No, there was no one behind them. And if it was a flash from behind, we've looked at this in slow motion, the white covers the whole sky. And it's uniformly the same intensity of white. But none of the white goes into the rock. It comes out of the earth. Now, this is 5 minutes after the ceremony has begun, and I believe that is when the magic box was turned on. Now, can we now go to the UFO flying above it? All right, Evan's showing us shafts of light that turned up in different places. There's another one, I think.
Budapest.
In Budapest, this was taking place at the time of that. And another one, please.
Glasgow.
And this went in the Glasgow News on the front page, and they said it's like something from the War of the Worlds. They nearly got it right. It's like something from the War of this world. This is the plaza we were looking at. The bird sign, that was the birds flew over and circled the rocks when I got them in formation. And you can see the sky right now is not the color it's going to turn into. That's the ceremony, and I'm hoping we're getting to the UFO one. You're going back to front here, aren't you? We won't talk about that yet. Here we go. Right. Evan's going to put up, here's another picture. Now, this one, I just need to give a bit of introduction to this. This is film of a UFO taken by a person called Austin Doog, who is legally gazetted as being blind. Now, this is the only time you're going to see a UFO film taken by a person that is blind. Now, you're going to find something unusual is going to happen. Normally, when someone's filming a UFO, what do they track, Evan?
The UFO.
He don't track the UFO. Everyone had stopped all over the place and they were filming the sky. None of us saw the UFO. We were looking at it, did we, Evan? It was there.
Yeah.
We didn't see it because the sky overwhelmed us. There's the color of the sky just before it changes.
All right.
Right, here we go.
I'll just
You'll see it moving across. It's slow moving. If Evan can put an arrow on it. There it is. Okay, there you go. Put the music back on. I'll play it, let it go through, and I want you to look at the lady at the car park. It's making its way towards the blue patch. It's got to get through the dark patch first. But our filmer, he don't care about that.
He's not filming it now. He's gone somewhere else.
There's our blue patch there. It's not there yet. We've missed it a bit. Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, oh, hang on, where's it going here now? I don't know if Evan can find the two pictures. You know the pictures? Evan will try and find them now. Now, let me explain something about that film. Yes, there is an incredibly slow-moving object that's moving above Uluru. Now, before we get to what it is, let's talk about what it is not. Now, when we put this up, people said straight away, oh, that's just a plane. Well, no, it's not a plane. Could you put that up, please, Evan? That's it there, isn't it? That one. No, back there.
Wait.
That.
No.
No?
Oh, yeah, that's the flight path. Yep.
No, here is the flight map for 732 in Northern Territory. And there is one plane. You can see it. There's a red star next to it. I don't know if they can see it. Can they? They can, yeah. That red star is the only plane that was in the air. It's 400 kilometers to the northwest of Uluru.
So, yeah.
It wasn't a plane.
There.
And it was a Jetstar plane.
We're,
and by the way,
we're over there. There's no way we can see that far.
No, we can't see that far. That's impossible. So, no, don't tell me it's a plane. It's not. There's your radar map at 7:32. It was not a plane. Then someone said it's a helicopter. Now, what do you think about something, Kerry Ann? You were on the field with the rest of us. There was 350 of us. Don't you think we would have heard the helicopter if it was flying over the top of Uluru? And we would have known. But don't worry. Sarah and Austin were on the last helicopter flight at Uluru that day, and it landed at 5 o'clock. They are not. Oh, you got it. Good. They are not allowed to fly the planes after helicopters at 5 o'clock. So it was not a helicopter. It was not a plane, but it was moving through the air at about 20 kilometers an hour. And most planes would fall out of the air if they were moving that part. But here's the important part, the empirical evidence. See where there's two arrows there. Those arrows are at 1 minute and 59 seconds. But let me tell you something about that. One person who knew a lot about filming that I don't, slowed down the film, and there are 4 to 5 frames per second. On the 59th second, in 4 of the frames, there is no UFO. But on the 5th frame, there is. On the 60th second, for 4 of the frames, there's no UFO. And on the 5th frame, there is. And after that, it's gone. And it is at the blue patch. Now, ladies and gentlemen, someone can say we're back engineering UFOs that they're making. Maybe we are. But I don't believe we can back engineer something that can disappear for 4/5 of a second, then reappear for 1/5 of a second, do it twice, then completely disappear. I do not believe we have that phasing technology. That is beyond our capabilities.
I think we've tried to do it, and
Philadelphia experiment. Yeah, everyone got melted into the boat and they never did it again. And they never touched that with a 10-foot pole because we don't know what we're doing. So what you've got there, we've got film of an explosion of massive light coming out of Uluru at 7:37. We've got film at 7:30, I don't know what it is, about the same time, isn't it? Yeah, 32, 34, something like that, of an object that's moving in the air. By the way, it's against the law for any plane or helicopter to fly directly above Uluru. But that thing was, and it disappeared. Now, what you start to get with that is a combination of stories about something amazing that's taking place here. Now, let's go further, Evan. Have we got the one from Bosnia that we put up at Uluru? We put it up at the conference the next day.
I'll just find that,
I want to share one.
I just want to say, Steve and Evan, I mean, it's quite humorous, I guess, to us, even though you guys can bring the evidence and do it better than anyone. But the other side of us, of course, is the storytelling part, is the faith, is the trust in what we know psychically or what we've been told. I live in Vanuatu part of the time with the Indigenous. It's a completely different way of sharing information and really understanding what truth about life is. And so it's like white skin, black skin having to merge and come together as one. And this is the time to do it. This is the time to bridge the gap. But I want to say for anyone listening, we don't need it to be proven every which way but sideways when we just know in our hearts what's happening. So kudos to these guys, hey, for bringing it all together for us, for the skeptics and for the poo-pooers and the deniers. So this is great.
That's our role. Yeah, that's our role in this. And Kerry-Ann, the next one was shown to everyone the next day. This came to us from Croatia. And it was an object. It was a disc. You can see the disc on the top there. And it was hovering in the sky above the ocean. And then this massive light was going down into the ocean. Now, this is the feedback we got, and we put it up. It basically was on at the same time, but obviously a different time because it's a different part of the world, right? We're in the PM and they're in the AM there. A ray of light breaking through the clouds and connecting with the sea. To avoid confusion, it's not the sun's rays because at this time is in a completely different place. Something phenomenal. It lasted for minutes and gradually disappeared. I can tell you we chased this up, and this went through the whole of the Balkan region. It was on the news in two different, not in Croatia, but in two other places it was on the news. Thousands of people were talking about it and saw it. It was this massive light that came out of the arcade, the Hoppy talk about.
Plaza.
The plaza, yeah. And it came from the skies. And as I said before, we've been looking for information to prove this. Now, what I'd like to do next up, can we go to, and I want to talk about the fact that this information doesn't just come from the Hoppy. Have we got the birdies? Oh, you got bird sign there.
No. It's later on. Just bear with me. I'll find it. Okay.
Evan's going to find some birds, and I'll explain why. I want to talk about now not the Hoppy. Okay. And we've shown you just a little. We're going to do a lot more at the conference. We're going to put up a lot more evidence than that. But I wanted to show you a few bits and pieces, like a selection rather than all of it at once. We'll put it in order here. We're just picking and choosing. But what I wanted to show you next is Arnie Minnie Mace, who's an elder, a very important elder. And I know Kerry-Ann feels you know Arnie Minnie Mace because you've met her, okay? And you wouldn't argue the point that she isn't important, or she is. Well, she's given two prophecies too. And it'd be wrong of us not to include them, wouldn't it, Evan?
Mm-hmm.
And the first one, well, oh, yes. Okay, don't put it on yet. We'll just keep it there. Okay. Yeah. She gave us two prophecies, and I want to share them with you. And we'll start with the one she gave us about 7 years ago, Evan.
Mm-hmm.
Right, 7 years ago. She gave us a prophecy. Remember how I told you we were telling people all over the place there'd be pandemics and all sorts of things, Kerry-Ann? Well, we were being told that by different elders constantly. And one of them was Arnie Minnie Mace. And she told us way back. And Evan and I forgot about it, didn't we, Evan?
Yep.
She told us there would be a pandemic that was going to take place, and it would be the first sign. I want to make this point, ladies and gentlemen. We look upon this particular thing we're talking about, and we all look at it and say, wasn't it horrible? Well, sometimes good news is masked. You've got to pay for it. And this one we had to pay for. It was the first sign. But she gave us proof. She said, you will know it's the first sign, and it won't be because of the pandemic. She told us it was because, and she told us this at least 4 years before the thing happened. And then Evan and I didn't remember it, did we?
No, we forgot.
Because we thought Auntie Minnie's having a seniors moment. Because she said, you'll know, because what will happen is when you go into the supermarkets, people will be fighting over toilet paper. Now, I want to ask people a question. How many people made that prediction? Yeah, how many people made that prediction 3 or 4 years before it happened? And the answer is one person, Auntie Minnie Mace. She said they will fight for it. They will be buying it on the internet. And I remember on one occasion, Kerry, and I went into a shopping centre, and there was a security guard in the toilet aisle, and he had a seat there. And there was no toilet rolls there, but he stayed there. He guarded the empty area where the toilet rolls could have been, and he was sitting there full-time guarding an empty space of toilet paper. Now, you would think, now what happened, what was really funny about this is what Lavinia did. Yeah, because Lavinia brought it up and told us about this, and we both looked at her like, what? Huh? What she then did for the next couple of years was she bought toilet paper and bought it and bought it and bought it till it filled up one entire room. And she literally had hundreds upon hundreds of rolls of toilet paper. And then she started to think to herself, what am I doing? This is ridiculous. And she started using up the toilet paper. Took her about 6 months, and a couple of days after she used up the last roll, it began. And she told us and asked us, did we set it aside? And we just looked at it and said, no, I don't even remember it. Oh, no, she told us about it. And she told everyone, and she told quite a few people, that will be the first sign. And I'm going to tell you, I'm giving a 10 out of 10 because I don't believe anyone got that right, bar her. Yeah. But then she gave us another sign. And we're going to show you some proof of that. We've got a couple of those, haven't we, Evan? Yep. And that was this. He said, the last sign. This is the last sign will be, watch the birds. They'll be behaving in ways they've never behaved before because their radar system, their tracking system, because the earth is shaking around and moving so much, they're going to be out of sync. And they're going to do things they've never done before. All right. Let's show you what they'll do.
Yo, what the fuck is this?
Oh, is that it, Evan?
Yep. Oh, there should be more.
There is more.
But anyway, it's
all right.
For whatever reason, it's not done.
Well, you'll see the full version. This is like the taster, Evan. You'll see the full version at Uluru. What then happens is he starts to talk about.
I'll try it again.
Try it again.
Yo, what the fuck is this? Oh my god! I feel like that Bird Box shit, that movie. No, they're landing on my car. I need to clean either way.
Right now, that was one sign that comes straight out of scenes of an Alfred Hitchcock movie called The Birds, where they literally had thousands of crows hanging around here. But this time, it wasn't the birds; it was Walmart that they were hanging around. Now, there is another film, but we won't show them today. No, you've got to come to Uluru for that. We've got to try and keep that carry on. We've got to do both sides. We've got another one. I'll describe it to you, where there's just a video. I think it's in Mexico, isn't it?
I think it is Mexico, yeah.
Just a video of just the street, you know, and it's a house that's got that video. And all of a sudden, you see about 20,000 birds just all come down and fall and smash into the street. And, of course, because it was so big time and it went around the world, the scientists had to respond to that one, Carrie Ann, so it's okay because it wasn't an unusual event. It was a normal event. And what the scientists said was a hawk flew above the flock and they all flew into the concrete and hundreds died when they flew into the concrete and smashed into it. That's what hawks do. That's what, when one hawk flies over 10,000 birds, they all fly into concrete. That was their explanation. No, it's not what happened. It's because the birds are feeling the fact that the earth is changing and they can't get their settings, their bearings anymore. They're losing control.
Weren't you saying something to me about pilots and GPS?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is something that people may not know, and I've been told by some...
No, I didn't know it until
I
you
did.
told me the other day.
I got told by some Jetstar pilots about that. The Earth's setting is bad, and I'm going to give you a couple other examples of it after this one. Insofar as I've been told that if you're flying from Tasmania to Sydney, they use sight only. You can't use the settings. They're wrong, and they don't use them anymore. So the Earth is changing in a lot of different ways right now, and it will continue to change. And one of the reasons we know this is taking place is the Schumann resonance. And we're going to show people graphs. And the best graph, we won't show them now because we don't want to give too much away, but I can tell you, for me, the most compelling graph is the one that was given to us the day after from the Ukraine University. And what it shows you, at 7:31, the Schumann resonance was around about 0.3, and at 7:33, it's 33. It's gone up 100-fold in 2 minutes and stayed at that level for the next 4 hours. Now, people, I can say to you now, if you put that in together with the pictures of Uluru exploding of the light at exactly the same moment, it goes up 100-fold, and at exactly the same moment, we've got a UFO above the top of Uluru. You start now starting to put together a very strong, circumstantial, agreed, but empirical set of evidence that all points to the same place. But let me show you one other thing that people need to understand about this alignment. The fact that the original people knew 9 years in advance that the alignment of Jupiter and Saturn would have impact over the whole solar system. Some people, probably not in your audience today, but a lot of skeptics would say, well, so what if two pieces of gas align with each other, which is Jupiter and Saturn? What does that mean? Well, let me give you 3 examples of what it meant to the solar system. And let's start with Neptune.
Yes.
Neptune. And this doesn't come from me. It doesn't come from some channeling I've done. It comes from a group called NASA. And they announced that virtually straight after, not long after, Neptune reversed its polarity, like we were told about the Hopi. And it's now spinning the opposite way. And it's now got 2 eyes. It didn't have any. It's gone the other way. What sort of force can make a planet reverse the way it rotates? And it happened exactly at the time we had this alignment. But it wasn't just Neptune. At the same time, the axis of Mars moves 6 inches, which is 15 centimeters. Now, you might think that that's not far. To move a planet 15 centimeters in a millisecond takes a massive amount of force. But not just Mars and Jupiter. Why not look at the Earth and see whether there was something we can find on this planet? And that would give us a greater belief that what we saw at Uluru was correct, wouldn't it?
It would, yes.
And of course, we all know what happened. Everyone in the world would know that the 2 largest earthquakes that have ever been measured happened about 3 days after the alignment. And I can tell you the reading for those 2 earthquakes was 9.6. Think about that, 9.6. The earthquake that wiped out San Francisco was about 8.9, and it just wiped it out completely. And don't forget that you've got to look at the way these numbers work. 9.6 is not just a little bit more than 8.9. It doesn't work like that. The numbering is different. It's like double.
Yeah.
But what's even more interesting is the aftershock was greater than 9.6. Never happened before when the aftershock was more than the original first earthquake. It was 9.7. Kerry Ann, do you know where that earthquake took place? Those two earthquakes. Would you
Tell
like
us,
to guess
Steve.
where they happened?
I just want to say I'm loving this. I've been missing the
Come on,
story.
give us a guess. Where do you think the earthquakes took place? Think about it. Where are the earthquake zones on this planet? Can't be too hard, can it? 9.6, 9.7, where would it have happened?
You tell us.
Well, here's the point. Nobody knew because nobody felt it. Do you know why? It was in a place where they don't have earthquakes, Antarctica. That's why we didn't feel it anywhere else, because it was localized to there. The couple of people there, probably the scientists may have felt it, I'm not so sure, depends where it was, but that's where the measurements took place. So what you've got, if you want empirical proof, we've got a truckload. I mean, we've probably given you 1/3 of what we'll present at Uluru at the time, but what comes out of that is you have to say to yourself, and Evan's got some, we're going to show you basically half an hour of just picture after picture of things taking place. There's one great one in Russia where everyone's swearing their heads off, aren't they?
Well, yeah.
They are.
I mean, I don't understand Russian, but I'm pretty sure they're swearing.
Man, what was in the sky? They were just looking at it.
You got it.
What the F is that? They just went off their head. They couldn't understand it. And all these people are yelling out. It's not Photoshop, ladies and gentlemen. It's just something that was filmed. And what's happened is, I mean, people have been sending us all this film, right? Like one we showed you was up in the Glasgow Herald because I had to put it up because everyone saw it. But there are so many films. And remember, the Hoppy said that these things that we see in the arcade are our signs. You want empirical signs, they're giving them to us. And what they're saying is, you've got the choice here. You can accept these signs for what they are, proof, or you can accept these signs for what you want them to be, fake. You get to choose. I mean,
That's
what's
absolutely
not going to happen? No spaceship is going to land in the lawn at the White House and get out and say, listen, I want everyone to behave properly. You're behaving like a pack of idiots. This is how I want you to behave from now on. Stop behaving like this. And everyone's going to say, yeah, okay, fine, I'll do it. It ain't going to be like that. It has to be a leap of faith. The same way 15 to 20 million people went and did a ceremony where we told them, we're not sure it's going to happen. It's the same again. Now, what we're seeing here, and we're seeing continually, is picture after picture of things that are taking place in the sky that you can't explain. Oh, yes, you can. You know the lights we've shown you pictures of, right? They've there were so many of them for a while. There's one there.
Oh, yeah, I'll just bring this last
Put that one up. That's Perth, isn't it?
Yep, that is Perth.
That's Perth in summertime. This is what they said about all these different pictures we're going to show you. The experts finally chipped in and said, well, what this is this. Because it's so cold there, and this is what they said about the other ones, all of them, Russia and stuff like. Because it's so cold there, what happens is that the crystals in the air take the street lights of the lamps, remember that, and then intensify the actual light.
Right.
This is Perth in January.
In the day. In
the day. So there are no street lights. Perth in the day, there is no crystallization taking place in the air because it's about 33, 34 degrees Celsius. That can't be the case, ladies and gentlemen. These were signs the Hoppy told us would happen. I believe these lights are coming out of the earth. I believe they're coming out of the earth, and this is part of the transformation and healing of the planet. But we have to remember one thing about these prophecies. The most important part of the prophecies of the Hoppy is they made it clear time after time, and they said it. If you don't embrace the old teachings, there's a lovely picture, Evan, of another red eye. You might want to show them that one. Don't give too much up.
All right, this is the last one. Everyone.
Last one. Right, another red eye for those who are interested in the red eye, because you've seen the blue kachinas there. But you've got to remember, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, somebody will try and explain that's a natural event. No, it's a hobby prophecy. It's that simple. That looks exactly like a red eye. That's the shape of an eye. And we've got plenty of pictures like this. It didn't just happen once. We've got the swearing bears from Russia. They've got one in the. They've got another one there too. Now, remember this. What we've been told is this. If we don't pick up the old prophecies, if we don't follow the old ways, we will not be part of the planet in the future. Now, I want to make a point with this, that when we say this, some people say, oh, this is heaven and hell. It's not. It's planet and planet. And you've got to make the point. We were told that very, very few people at the moment are ready to ascend, to stay here. Very few people, which means at the moment we're not ready. And this is a major point that's been made to me, that the change is happening. The change will take place, but it needs humans to be part of that change. We earned that right by that ceremony happening. But a lot of people are saying, I know a friend of mine that told me the change was going to take place by the end of July for sure. And I said, well, I'll ring you after that. I'll ring you a month and a half later, and I want you to tell me about the change that's going to take place. And I rang him. I said, mate, you told me this change was going to take place in a month, and I've told you it'll be decades. Oh, yeah, you're right. But no, it's going to happen in November now. I said, okay, then. I'll ring you in the end of December, and I'll ask you again, when is it going to take place? And I want to make this point, ladies and gentlemen, that the change will take place. That's a given. But it's not yet. We have to earn it. And at the moment, there are not enough people on this planet. If the earth was to change, there would be literally a couple of thousand people left, and there wouldn't be enough left here to live the way we are now. We would be living to do one thing, to stay alive, and that's it. That's all we would be able to do. There'll be no more Woolworths and Coles and Walmart anymore. We'll be living in the bush trying to stay alive. And I can tell you now, I know one person in Australia, Jake Casso, who could live in the bush and stay alive. The rest of us would die. Well, we're not ready yet. We have to get ready. And so what this is all about, this ceremony, was the beginning of something. But we now have to earn it. And that means, according to what the hobby said, you've got to jump into this fast-flowing river. You've got to learn about the old ways of doing things. And once you do those two things, you're starting to walk into the right direction. So theoretically, yes, Carrie-Anne, you were at the ceremony at Uluru, so were we. And the beauty you've got and we've got is we were at that ceremony. And I know for a fact that everyone at that ceremony, you will never convince them that it didn't work.
And we've just flashed this up because we'll be all appearing together again in early November. So, yeah, come check us out then. And
we'll have very special guests. Oh, I guess what? One of them's just here right now. We've got Isha Patel, for Carrie-Anne and Isha Patel, that when they come on, they'll be doing their talk about what they're going to be presenting. We don't have to. We've done ours now, haven't we?
Absolutely brilliant, guys. Honestly, we could go for another hour and just keep the storytelling going because it just enchants me. And it, you know, I feel like talking to you both today has given me a lot of hope. I've been doing a lot of transmuting of energy, all the horrific stories that we're hearing about. And of course, it does go in line with what the Hopi have told us through their prophecies, what we all know intuitively as healers, as light workers. So I guess that other side's got to be there. But today has given me hope that there's a way through this. And as you have said, Steve, people have to earn it. You know, I feel like we've kind of got a golden ticket anyway, being human. We've got the highest technology, it's said, in all of the galaxies as the human. However, how are we going to use that golden ticket? Are we going to go on this ascension trail? And that doesn't land in our laps. That's about us responding to each and every present moment with heart and finding our way through. And sometimes we say, and Evan and I spoke about this before we went on, about, just sending love. Being heart-based is not about sending love, particularly if it's to an unensouled AI type entity that's coming at you. No, being heart-based is about also being fierce at times. Yes, be kind, but be fierce at times. Call it out, speak up, shine a light, be willing to stand in the fire, have the courage, and maybe even give your life for it. We're talking about the Indigenous, and for me, living in Vanuatu part of the time now, which I kind of went on the run, I've got to tell you, after the Australian government kind of pulled down their heavy hand. And, I'm living between Australia and Vanuatu now, getting a lot of psychic downloads. No, I need to be here for the big battle that's probably coming again in 2030. I need to be here in Australia, but I'm learning, Stephen Evan. I'm learning old way. And we talk about Indigenous that can still survive off the land. I'm so grateful to these cultures. Vanuatu is an independent area, and they were standing up for their brothers and sisters, the Kanak tribes in a different area, and saying that, you know what, if you've got to give your life for it, if you've got to go on your own hero's journey to give your life for the cause, to keep the warmongers out, to keep the Wetiko virus out, the white skin virus that gets into the mind, that brings heartlessness, then you go that far and you give your life for it. And that's courage. So kudos to our original people. And many of them have gone astray. Of course they have. And there's reasons for that. And there's reasons for us white skin having gone astray as well. But we can get back. We can get back to that pure electromagnetic pulse that's in our heart and restore the balance here, restore what true love actually is all about. And as I said, sometimes it's about being fierce. So I want to thank you both for being so fierce all these years, so many years.
Well, that's what we're here for.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I'd invite people to come along to the conference at Uluru. Like I said, we'll give you all the information. We've given you about 1/3 of it here, and we'll do the rest of it there. And, of course, there's a lot of other people speaking. And like you said before, it's more than just a conference. It's a place where people can meet other people who think the same way as them. And I think it gives them strength too. And gives them heart, because sometimes living in mainstream, it's very difficult to find people who are looking the right way at the moment. So yeah, it's important on a lot of different levels. And of course, you park next to the most sacred object on the planet, Uluru and Katajuka, because they go together.
And Katajuka, yeah. So big shout out to the beautiful Catherine and Mick Turner and Catherine Hand, who are the organisers of the CCC, the Cosmic Consciousness Conference. So we'll all be there if you'd like to come along. I'll pop some links in our notes here for the show. And guys, thank you so much for your time today. It's definitely got me, given me hope, but also revved me up for, can't wait to hear more at Uluru later this year.
Definitely.
And we'll see you on your online conference, November 8th, 9th.
Yep, definitely. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have to learn philosophy from our beautiful wisdom keepers, from Indigenous tribes who've come before us, who've shown us the way, because all of these Indigenous tribes have something that's common. Their story tells us that we are from the stars and that we live within magic. Are we going to choose to align to their wisdom, their ancient knowing, or are we going to listen to modern so-called experts and scientists? The choice is yours. But I want to share with you the Hopi prophecy, which tells us about the 11th hour that we are currently at, and that has been prophesied by also the Australian Indigenous, the Inuits, the Incans, the Mayans, so many beautiful brothers and sisters who have been at one with the earth, have seen this time coming, and they know exactly what this is about and the opportunity that we have in order to ascend en masse into fifth dimensional consciousness. Some theories are circulating currently that there will only be about 8 to 10% of the population that will choose to upgrade, if you like, into fifth dimensional consciousness. So for many people, again, it's that harrowing grief that some of your family and friends are not coming with you. And so I'd like to offer you wisdom and solace and divine insight from the Hopi prophecy. Allow me to read this to you now. I want you to close your eyes, go into your breath, and just feel this wisdom come in, not just via your mind, but through your codes, through your DNA, through the cells of your body. The 11th hour prophecy of a Hopi elder. You have been telling the people that this is the 11th hour. Now you must go back and tell the people that this is the hour. And there are things to be considered. Where are you living? What are you doing? What are your relationships? Are you in right relation? Know your garden. It is time to speak your truth. Be good to each other, and do not look outside yourself for the leader. Then he clasped his hands together, smiled and said, "This could be a good time. There is a river flowing now very fast. It is so great and swift, and there are those who will be afraid. They will try to hold on to the shore. They will feel they are being torn apart and will suffer greatly. Know the river has its destination. The elders say, we must let go of the shore, push off into the middle of the river. Keep your eyes open and our heads above the water. And I say, see who is in there with you and celebrate. At this time in history, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment that we do, our spiritual growth and journey comes to a halt. The time of the lone wolf is over. Gather yourselves. Banish the word struggle from your attitude and your vocabulary. All that we do now must be done in a sacred manner and in celebration. We are the people we are waiting for. The powerful words of that beautiful Hopi elder. So many traditions, as I mentioned, are speaking to this time as to what's happening for us. Ask yourself, are you with Mother Earth or are you against Mother Earth? Do you trust in nature or do you believe in something inorganic?